I had a question. When it comes to the institutional framework, I see, or for me, there is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, there is some confusion between the concept of population and between the growth of population. I would suggest that there is a certain structure to address or to undertake the mandate of addressing population growth, because it's a very far-reaching and overarching issue. You have covered different aspects, and all of them require a lot of effort, but in the previous sessions, the presentation that was given the first session was not very accurate as it has been critiqued, but despite all of the efforts that were being made, it seems that the objectives are not going to be fully met. So we should have an independent agency that has the sole mandate to solve this issue. The last speaker in this session, Dr. Maha, she was a former population and health minister, and currently she holds the position of the executive director of the in the Middle East. Thank you for your kind invite and the presentation that we have been listening to since we came in the morning, Dr. Megid and Dr. Maisa. I had a comment that I deemed it wise to leave it to the end, because so much was said about the challenges in terms of the institutional framework to combat overpopulation. That's why I felt that the whole thing spilled all over the place. So it seemed that it is highly fragmented, and every implementing agency is working in isolation, but the bottom line is the national strategy and the development strategies that are in place, which we consider as opportunities. Even if we drag our legs, if we drag our feet, we can easily go ahead should we go back on the right track. I wanted to say that the policies in place and which are implemented do not allow governance frameworks to take place. So it's very hard for us to know who's responsible for what, who's to be held accountable. So the governing frameworks are most often than not are lacking, because the strategies that are required to go for setting up institutional framework are lacking. There is no governance, there is no accountability, and they are all not in keeping with the current legislations. We're talking about an organizational or an institutional framework. We do not even understand who's going to be doing what. So I wanted to point out the importance of the policies that would help transition to governance systems. I want to talk about an organizational system. What we have in mind, an institutional framework requires a framework that is able to implement policies and the strategies that have been formulated, and at the same time, it's able to do the monitoring, evaluation, accountability. So, for the population profile, I hate to call the word issue. It's a profile, because an issue is usually understood, but so far we cannot even understand it. And the population situation is very fluid. I mean, we used to say that it changes every 5 years. Now we're talking about the day-to-day changes. It's really scary. It's really complicated, and it requires a strategy that should be able to respond to all of these variables and all of these needs. Should we intend to have a clear vision for the population status over the next 5 or 10 years? Everyone now is talking about 2050. Now we are still talking about 2030, which is 10 years from now. So we hope we have a clearer vision what we want to be like within the next 10 years, or how Egypt is going to be like. So as you said in your presentation, there are opportunities, and we hope we have more in-depth studies and to have more data that would support the strategies and the policies. But at the same time, we're talking about an institutional framework and a development vision. Dr. Abla, you mentioned earlier the economic aspect. We're talking about the reproductive health, reproductive incentives, and we're talking about female empowerment, education, awareness, but we never touched on on how to combat poverty, how to eliminate it, how to utilize the youth, how to make use of the opportunities so that we can see where we're headed to within the next 10 or 20 years. And so a population strategy should be clear and self-evident to everyone so that all of the stakeholders are working in harmony. The institutional framework that we are talking about, regardless of its governing body, it's clear that all of the frameworks that were on the table were really failed. Because I had a feeling that we are working in different frameworks, but we were not able to assess them. We were not able to make use of the available opportunities or learn from the past lessons. So we're talking about an agency that is able to do the monitoring and evaluation and has the capacity and the capability to implement, to coordinate, to follow up, and to enforce the laws. We have the legislation, we have the laws, but we have weak governance points because we have laws that combat child marriage or FGM or sexual harassment or sexual violence. But when it comes to implementation, you'll find there are many loopholes that are being used to circumvent implementation. That's why this whole profile should be institutionalized, and this agency, this structure should be given the mandate, the capacity, the capability to have the monitoring, to do the monitoring, evaluation, and the accountability. But the population policies are supported by different legislations. However, these legislations are not usually known to different agencies, and as such, they would be lost upon us. That's why I pointed out the importance of the rule of the law. We also wanted to address the organizational framework and to assign the roles of all of the stakeholders, because it is a partnership. And as you said, all of the competent stakeholders or the development stakeholders should be mapped out within this strategy, and this strategy should be implemented in a way that serves the whole overarching strategy, so that we can know where we're at and where we headed to. As you said, there is fragmentation, there is lack of coordination between the plans. The Ministry of Health is working in isolation, the Ministry of Planning is doing another thing. You find the Ministry of Education is doing another thing, but at the end of the day, all of these roles do not converge. And we fail to assess the progress made on these different tracks.
Or for the population strategy. So we are talking about the institutional framework, and let's talk. I'm not going to say to review the strategy because it's till 2030, but let's see how it's going with the other strategies that is implemented in reality. Does it goes with the educational strategy, with the employment of the youth, improvement and development of the youth to make them capable to be to compete in the market. We have to review all these strategies, so I will have at the end the comprehensive framework, so I can say at the end if there anything that I need to review. Are we in the right road to have all the scenarios in front of me? Because being successful, we wish for sure to be successful, and if we are not able to achieve this success throughout this institutional framework, so we should have other alternative scenarios and other alternative strategies and policies. And whenever I talk how I am, what are the plans and what are the giving items that I have when I'm talking about the capacity, when I'm talking about the capability, and talking about the experience. We have to benefit from the experience when we talk about the population strategies and how we would like to move forward. Because when we talk about the institutional framework, whatever it is, whatever this organizational framework, whatever I'm suggesting, I should have, I'm not going to call it a committee or a council, but I should have a group of consultants. Their main job description is to draw the policies, to put a comprehensive strategy to complete the population plan to fulfill the requirement 2030-2050. To review the legislations is very, very important, and as Dr. Maisa mentions, that we do have lots of given items, and we should benefit from this. We will learn from our failure, and we are going to achieve our targets. We have to put in consideration the items that we have and how we are going to use these items and these elements in the way forward, how we are going to do the transition to the good governance, and if we are talking throughout an institutional and legislational framework. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much, Dr. Maha. Before we open the door for discussion, let's say like 10 minutes, or what do you think? Any questions, any comments, any interventions? I can see two at the back. I will start from the right-hand side. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. person. I am Adel Bishay. I'm the professor of economic in the AUC. I'll speak briefly. I am ready with my comments in spite of all the speeches and all the presentation that I saw. I learned that the professor is a student. I learned it from the one talking about the United Nations Environment Program. It's very well known that everybody is born with one mouth and two hands, meaning that the population, it means if the mouth is talking and the hands are not working, so you have a problem. Also, I was always saying that population is a mine. It can be like a mine that we have in the western desert in Egypt. Sometimes you are explosive material, and sometimes it is a mine of gold. But you said a word that actually was very useful for me. Yes, I totally agree. If the independence ratio is not high, actually the independence ratio in Egypt is 64%. This is something I learned today. A very important thing that I would like to mention today is the presentation conducted by Dr. Abla Abdel Latif is very rich, and this graph I have, if you look at the graph from the year 1986 till 2006, and you draw a trend line just with your hand without doing any calculation, you will find out the improvement of the population situation in Egypt was highly improved. Yes, it started improving by the end of the 70s and the beginning of the 80s till 2005. And when it was improved in the year 1994, we conducted the World Population Conference, and they chose Egypt for this reason. And that conference was held in Cairo. And when we held this conference, it was very effective. It was said, articles were wrote, very important articles were wrote about this subject, showing the benefits of what happened in the Egyptian population, showing that because of the great succeed that Egypt achieved, Egypt provided 12 million, eliminating 12 million because of the success of the program that was done. They said that the money that was spent, it was 2.4 million Egyptian pounds on the family planning, but this saved for Egypt 45 billion Egyptian pounds from the aspect of child health, education, food subsidies, food supply on the long run. So the quality of life was improved. All the messages that I'm listening to today is because there is a kind of disease, a very bad, awful disease in Egypt. Normally people, they come and talk as if we are going to invent the bicycle. We here in Egypt, we have a historical background, a great historical background. I want the attendees here to say that the people who were working by the late 70s till the year 2005, lots of them are still alive. How did they did it? That kind of experience. For me, this is the first time to hear Dr. Maisa, and I'm fond of what she was talking about because she focused on the problems, the success that happened in Egypt, and the whole world was talking about this achievement, how Egypt did it. It was done through the institutional framework. Dr. Abla Abdel Latif was talking very quickly, but every single word, it was 100 pages. She was talking that each meeting was attended by ministers and they were able to take decisions and the operation was done successfully. I gave a lecture in the AUC in the year 1982 and it is a published lecture and it was like 37 years ago, and at the end of the lecture I said Egypt doesn't need Adil Bishai, the professor of economics. Egypt needs a professor of public administration, how to manage such issue. I don't have anybody from India here. Let's see the Indian system. The Indian system, they do have a certain council in the state. It has nothing to do with the policy of the minister. It has nothing to do with the policy of the cabinet. They don't have such a thing over there. They have like an authority in the state. The members are from 9 to 10, saying that the population situation, the agriculture situation, and this authority is gathering every 6 months, every year, and they start discussing the productivity, the achievement, the targets, the goals, the obstacles. So look at the administration system in India. Egypt, we are not talking only about the pharaonic period. Egypt, since the year 1913, we were using the solar energy before you ever heard about solar energy. So the administration system is very important. Look at the period of time that we were very successful. Not only concerning the population issue. It was not the minister. It was not the first undersecretary. I finished. I'm done. I'm trying just to go on with on order. Samir Aburaya, General Manager, the National Council for Population. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Abla. I like the idea that we are tackling the subject of the population throughout an economic perspective. But when we talk about the institutional framework, we have to admit, and Dr. Maisa Noush was a Vice Minister for the Ministry of Health and Population, and you know that there was a Ministry of Population that only exists for 6 months, and before any evaluation, this ministry was gone. When we talk in Egypt, it is only theoretically, and as you said, we need a committee or whatever experts to put the policies. The National Council for Population, they are a group of ministers. Their main mandate is to put plans and to adopt recommendations to serve the population issue. What we mean by the Population Council, whether it is under the supervision of the Prime Minister or under the supervision of the President, but as for the technical secretary for the Council, actually, this is not the National Council. This is the technical secretary. It doesn't work, and it has nothing to do with the mandate or with the main responsibility of the National Council. I see that the Ministry of Planning did very good by putting an e-planning in order to meet the objective of 2030. Any authority, any ministry in Egypt, when they set a plan or a strategy, they should start. They should set this strategy according to the Egyptian Vision 2030. The first thing that is put when we set a strategy or a plan, any activity that I'm doing should serve one of the sustainability development goals. I'm not talking about only the National Council for Population. I'm talking about the responsible for those entities responsible for the population problem should work together, should coordinate together, and at the end we should have a kind of a committee or a council in order to do the monitoring and the following up of implementing the strategy and implementing the plans, to be responsible with all its own capabilities in order to go on and to implement the strategy. Okay, agree with each other. Who is going to be first asking a question or commenting? In the name of God, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank you, Dr. Abla, for your invitation. I am professor in the Faculty of Medicine, and I would like to greet the respectable Ahmed Dawood for his study at the beginning of this session. Dr. Abla, when she was explaining, and I totally agree with Dr. Adel Bishai from the AOC when he talked and saying that there was a kind of success, and Dr. Abla referred to this in the economic development and the population development in the 80s. For sure, we're not going to invent the bicycle. We have to look around and to see how the world is going, and we can adopt one of the successful model and start working on it. We have a golden opportunity, Dr. Abla. We have a golden opportunity that the political will is there, is existing, and as a researcher, Ahmed Dawood said that the fund, it's preferable for sure to be self-finance, and to have a strategical planning or the policies that are conducted for the National Council for Population. Why not to have a dynamic strategy to try to change if there is anything that can be changed? If we find that there are lots of obstacles, we can change the strategy according to these obstacles. I actually respected the presentation of Dr. Maisa. You actually explained in full details. I was very close to you, and we write a file, and the role of the Egyptian faculties and the Egyptian universities did a great job, and the students of the faculties and the universities, they did field visits in the villages, in the small towns, and they were talking to the people, they were talking to the families, talking about early marriage and talking about child labor, exactly the same like the women entrepreneurs and the leaders in the villages and in the towns. They were very capable of transferring and delivering the message and delivering the information. I wish this effort and this work to be sustainable. Quickly, please. You have to wait till the last session in order to listen to the recommendation. Thank you very much. General Magdi Abdel Minna, CAPMAS, former general manager for the ID project. When we set programs and we see the results, when we see that we don't have positive results, I will ask a question. Is it the Egyptian society is totally convinced with the idea of family planning? If this is true or false, and I need an answer. Dr. Maisa and Dr. Maha and Dr. Magid, they are our professors. I wish to listen to their answers. Do the Egyptian society believe in family planning, yes or no? In the name of God, I would like to greet the panelists. I would like to greet Maisa Shawqi. My name is Dr. Ahmed Al-Argawi, a member of the Health Committee, the Egyptian Parliament, one of the laws in the former, and I was one of the former member of the executive members in the Population Council. I will start from the point that Dr. Maha recommended, which is the lack of coordination between the different entities, between the stakeholders working in this field. I want to say something very important, that when the population department was working with the help of the foreign component, it was totally different than what is going on with the local component. What we want is, we want to step on the problems. Each entity is working by itself. Nobody knows anything about the others. The high state for information, they have their mandate. The Ministry of Health, they do have their responsibilities. Even the council, the National Council for Population, but at the end, we don't have outcomes. We don't have a product that everybody agree on it. It's very important to, as the political will, raise the project of the health insurance But when we had a vision, we were discussing such a law 50 years ago, but when we had the political law, the political vision, this law is going to be implemented July 2019. Family planning, we need one thing, the human resource, I beg your pardon, to fulfill the needs. I can't work on the family planning without having a professional, without having a physician, without having a doctor. We cannot tackle the problem of population without having the specific materials or without having the proper tools that I'm going to use. We can't talk about family planning and I have what I call the unwanted pregnancy, and I have nothing to do with this. Everything is accumulated, and we need to have what it's called by reproductive health, to have a subject in the educational curriculum, and Dr. Maisa knows this, and we are asking for this, how we are talking about health education among the youth community in order to, we would like to make them to understand the component of the family planning. We have multiple components, which is the reproductive health, that we can through it to explain what is the meaning of the family planning. And we can say from it how to have a generation that it is very well trained, that is aware about family plan. We have lots of problems, and unfortunately the solutions are there and we all know it, but you provide the human capacity and you will see the community and the society, they are all speaking one language, and we are going to overcome the population problem. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your comments and for your questions. I think that this session will leave us with lots of ideas, lots of studies, and we are looking forward for the coming session. So I think that we are going to listen to the answers in the coming session. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you.